Hey friends, thanks for joining me here. Today I have a yoga class for low back love. If you're like me and sometimes you have low back pain, especially as you get older, I wanted to share some of my favorite yoga poses when I'm experiencing low back pain. Hopefully, these work in your body for you. But our tendency is to stay still when we have pain, and sometimes that is necessary. Consult with your doctor before doing anything. But I know for me, the more I move and get some just gentle movement in and some gentle stretches, the less likely I am to be in pain from any kind of stiff muscles or things like that. So to get started, this is a pretty short practice. You're welcome to lengthen it and do some of the poses for longer if that feels good. But what I invite you to do is really pay attention to your body throughout and notice how it feels before and after doing these poses so that if they work for you, you can come back to them. Let's start on our hands and knees. We're going to start with some of my tried and true. Most of our favorites is a cat-cow, just getting some movement in the spine. So our hands are directly underneath our shoulder blades, our hips directly over our knees or whatever feels best in your body. And as we inhale, we're going to arch the back, opening the belly towards the ground, head towards the sky. Exhaling, bringing the chin towards the chest and the hips towards the ground, rounding in the upper back. And repeating this movement with our breath. Inhaling and opening the front body, arching the back. Exhaling and rounding in. Now, reminder, this does not have to be a big movement. What's most important is to check in with your body. Where are you feeling the stretch and where can you go to the edge but not go over? Again, as I mentioned in the beginning, you're welcome to keep doing this for as long as you'd like. But for here, we'll come back to neutral spine. We're going to walk our hands forward and we're going to take some rolling cat-cows. So we're going to inhale forward. Our shoulders are going to come over our wrists. Our hips are going to drop forward slightly. We're going to exhale, bring our hips back towards our heels and bow our head towards the ground. If there's tightness in your shoulders, bend in your elbows and bring them back towards the body. We're going to inhale and come forward again, and you move how you'd like. Making any sort of changes in the position of your body to help yourself be more comfortable in this. As you come forward, option to keep the chin tucked towards the chest, and then opening the chest forward as you come forward, rounding in as you come down. Remembering the breath here, taking the whole inhale to come forward and the whole exhale to come back. Again, option to keep doing this if it feels good. But we'll move on for the sake of the video. We're going to come forward, shoulders over the wrists. We're going to tuck our hips down. And we're going to keeping our shoulders in towards our body. We're going to lower to our belly. From here, we're going to come into Sphinx pose. So we're going to come up onto our elbows. The elbows are going to be stacked directly underneath the shoulder blade. Our hands are going to be out forward in front of us. If you feel any pinching in the low back, rock the hips side to side and extend the spine long and the legs down. Our feet are untucked, so the tops of our feet are on the ground. Our feet are on the ground. And our gaze is down towards the ground as well. Oftentimes when we have low back pain, we think we need to fold forward more, so that we need to stretch those back muscles. But in fact, sometimes back pain can come from being in that forward position for too long, especially if we're seated all day. So what happens is we round our back, our upper back, but we tuck our hips under. And that causes a lot of shortening of the muscles in the front part of our body. And so this pose is one of my favorites to help lengthen some of those muscles along the front body. Again, staying here for as long as you'd like. But for here, we're going to tuck our hands back underneath our shoulders, keeping our elbows tucked in towards our side, pressing into the hands, pressing into the hips. And we're going to come all the way back to Balasana, our child's pose. Now here, if your hips are tight, which if you sit a lot like I do, they might be, you can widen your knees and sit your hips back, or you can keep your knees together. Now, a couple options here. If you need more room for your body, widen your knees. If you'd like to get into that low back a little bit more, keeping your knees together and letting your belly press into your knees will extend some of those back muscles a little more. What you do with your hands is up to you. If your shoulders are tight, tuck those elbows back towards the body a little bit more. You can fold your forearms in front of you and rest your head. You can leave your hands extended or place a block underneath your head. You decide. Lots of options here. Wherever you are, let your breath be free. If your knees are together, option to rock your hips side to side. Notice if that gets, for me, it gets into the lower part of the low back, into my sacrum area, where oftentimes, if you have sciatica, that might be where you feel your sciatic pain. When we're ready, we're going to come up into tabletop position. And we are going to come back onto our backs. You don't have to move fast. Going slow is fine too. From here, we'll come down, keeping our feet on the earth. Our hands can come out to the side. You can even grab the edges of your mat if you need. But our feet are going to be as close to our sit bones as possible. Our knees will stay in line with our hips. Now, from here, this might be a movement that you want to explore. Sometimes it can feel a little different in the body. But one of my favorite moves for low back pain is what I call hip tilts. I don't know if that's the actual name of them. That's what I've named them for myself. But what it is instead of a full bridge, so instead of lifting the hips all the way up to the sky and rolling up onto the back, which we're going to do in a moment, I merely just tilt my hips up towards the sky. So I lift my hips, and at the same time I lift my hips, my low back presses into the earth. And then I press my hips back down. So I press into my feet, tilt my hips up towards the sky, and my low back presses into the earth. And then I tip my hips back down. Sometimes I even arch my low back. So I do the opposite and open my belly towards the sky and arch my low back. And then repeating, tilting the hips up towards the sky, letting the low back press into the earth. And then coming back down to neutral or arching the spine, whichever feels good for you. If you're not feeling anything, that's okay. I know not everybody does, but for me, this really helps extend those low back muscles and kind of gives them a massage. Sometimes I'll lift my hips just slightly and then rock my hips side to side too. That gets into the side muscles of the low back as well. So just exploring here. When you're ready, we'll keep the same position, but then we'll start some bridges. So this time again, we'll press into the feet, press the hips up, press the low back off the ground, and then keep going. We're going to press so much that our middle back, our upper back comes off the ground until we're up onto our shoulders, and then exhaling towards the earth. And repeating this pattern, lifting the hips slightly, then the mid back, upper back, and finally onto the shoulders. You go as high or as low as you'd like. My body doesn't come too far off the ground. But I listen to my body rather than focusing only on what it feels like. Moving with your breath here. I find this really helps me because it loosens up all the rest of the muscles of the back, which also can contribute to some low back pain. You've probably heard all of this is connected somehow. And you can keep going for as long as you'd like. For now, we will come back to center And we're going to cross the right ankle over the left knee. So the right knee will be out to the side. We're taking like a little figure 4 here. And from here, I just like to rock side to side, letting the knee and the foot fall to one side and come to the opposite side. And then we're going to release and hug that right knee into the chest, towards the chest, extend that left knee. And we're going to take that right leg across the body over to the left side. So we'll take a twist here. You might feel immediately that left side body and into that left hip open and heat up immediately. Light up. Only go as deep as feels good for you. Letting the breath flow freely here, noticing if you're holding, which we tend to do when things get a little tough. And you're welcome to stay here as long as you'd like. But for here, we will roll back towards center. Take the foot down, take both feet to the earth, widen them as wide as the yoga mat, and let both knees fall side to side. Windshield wipering the knees side to side in both directions. And then coming towards center, this time we'll pick up the left ankle and bring it over the right knee. And again, we're going to rock side to side. This is a really gentle version of what you might have heard called pigeon pose. So you can come forward and bring this leg to the earth if you're forward, or you can lay back and bring your legs towards you. But if your knees aren't quite there, or you want something a little more gentle, this is a nice option. Just a great example of how there's so many different variations of yoga poses, and we can choose what works best in our bodies. When we're ready, we'll come to stillness. We'll take that left knee towards the body. Right leg will extend. And then we're going to bring that left knee across the body and twisting over to the left. It doesn't have to go all the way to the earth. Let it go as far as it will. Noticing which part of the body is lighting up here for you, meaning where are you feeling this stretch? Okay, we don't want to feel pain. We don't want anything sharp. But we want that kind of good hurt feeling, like, I needed this. When you're ready, on your next inhale, rock back towards center. Bring both knees towards the body and rock side to side. And then when you're ready, we can rock over onto our right side. We'll use our arm to lift us up to seated, coming back to seated. So from here, as I mentioned in the beginning, you're welcome to do any of these stretches or movements for as long as you'd like. Again, pick your favorites, explore some of them. But take a deep inhale and exhale and just notice how your body is feeling. Notice how your low back is feeling. And hopefully this helped a little bit. Thank you so much for joining me here today, and may you be well.